Hey, Carla here. Welcome to my office. Please step inside. Today we're going to be talking about reaching the point of profitability finally forever. PFF, small abbreviation, which is the holy grail of startups, and what the three main problems are that startups face to get to that point and what they can do about it. So let's get started. So let's assume that this triangle here is that point. Profit finally forever. P, F, right up. So what are the three main hurdles? What are the biggest obstacles that get in the way? Consistent sales. And, you know, most startups will tell you, if only I had enough people, if only I had enough sales, all shall be solved. Okay, next point is cost-effective delivery. Sure, if I can deliver the product or the service at a cheaper cost, gosh, you know, make more money, make the sales, do it at a lower cost, life is so much better. And then the third point is the financial viability. I can't remember if I warned you about my handwriting, but it's awful. You're gonna have to put up with it, sorry. So, come back. Let's talk a little bit about each one of those. Consistent sales. I'm going to split that up into three areas, okay? The first one is lead flow. Okay, so consistent flow of leads would be such a nice thing that we don't have to go searching for customers every time. We don't have to go advertising, we don't have to go marketing, we don't have to go to networking events. And especially these days, a lot of startups end up in confusion land where just about everyone tells you, you've got to be on YouTube, you've got to be on Facebook, you've got to be on Twitter, you've got to be on LinkedIn, you've got to be on Snapchat, you've got to be on TikTok, you've got to be on Clubhouse. Gosh, I don't know, every 5 minutes they come up with something else. And then all of us are sitting around going, oh my goodness, I have to create blogs and videos and posts and engagement and get on groups and engage and try to sell and go to networking events even though we hate them. And I mean, some of us like them. I don't know those people, but yeah, I think some people like them. Anyway, or if we don't go down that route, we save up a bit of money, we start putting it into advertising. And the biggest problem with that is at this point where we're not all that good at marketing our product or service, and we end up wasting a whole lot of money on this exercise. I mean, I've seen startups, self-funded startups, we're not even talking about startups that had investors throw money in, spend $50,000 in a matter of a few months trying to advertise, spent it on SEO, spent it on AdWords, spent it on Facebook ads with no result whatsoever. So that's kind of crazy, but then you think to yourself, well, I would never spend that sort of money, surely not, no. But then think about it, if you've spent, and I've talked to a lot of startups that have done this, where they spend 8 to 10 hours a day learning about social media, writing blogs, writing articles, recording videos and putting them out with just crickets. You put out a post and you get nothing back. You put out articles, you get nothing back, or you might get a few likes here and there, but no one buying. You do that enough times or for long enough, 8 to 10 hours a day, at the very least, $50 an hour, which is the least you really need to value your time, times 6 months, there's 50 grand there, there's 50, 60 grand there at the very least. So lead flow is a big issue, and there are strategies to make that happen without the overwhelm of confusion that we usually get subjected to. Some of those are catalysts and cash cows. Not very politically correct, I guess, not to the cows, but hey, good for me. Second point is higher conversion. I did warn you about my handwriting, so here it goes. Just enjoy it. Enjoy the ride. So what do we mean by high conversion? I get leads coming through the door. I get people, opportunities that potentially could have bought. We talk to them. They say, "I'll think about it." You know, it's almost like, why can't they see the value? Why can't they see the point? Why can't they see that my product is worthwhile? Why can't they see what I've got to offer is better than everyone else? And in order to get to that point of higher conversion, other elements need to be understood, such as the client and the market. What's out there? Who are you competing with? What's going on in their head? Where do you find the client? Are they happy to pay for what you've got? Can they afford it? Is it worth it to them? How can that value be translated into a purchase? How can we get them to pull the money out of their pocket, out of their wallet, the credit card out, to get to the next level? And the third point here is perpetual revenue model. I mean, some people have caught on to that. Others are yet to find out what that really means. The main issue here is frequency that a particular buyer is going to continue buying from you, whether it's an ongoing product or an ongoing service. And sometimes one can turn it into one by having a bit of an open mind and looking and learning from other industries. And the second thing is Ascension of the same customer. Can we open up our model, our thought process, to get them to the point of buying more from the same client? I mean, there's so much effort. Usually that's one of the biggest costs that we have to incur in business, finding a client and converting them. So while we're at it, really we need to be looking at perpetual revenue model. The second part of the equation, cost-effective delivery. So, you know, one really critical point here is quality confidence. So why is quality a thing? You know, why are we talking about quality? We're all trying to deliver the highest possible quality that we're capable of delivering. Well, see, that costs time, that costs money, that costs resources, energy. And if we do that, and we're not really good at marketing ourselves and converting people to our high ticket, you know, 5-star kind of quality, then we end up like the majority of people competing on price. And we don't want that. That's kind of a race to the bottom. It's one of those places where too often, too many of us end up. Startups I'm talking, or actually just about every business, you could end up potentially in that place. So what's the opposite situation? We try and save money so that we can have, you know, bigger margins. And of course, with the first situation, your margins just start disappearing. They start going down. And eventually one day you can't operate. The alternative maybe potentially could be too low, you know, trying to save on every aspect of the business in order to lower the cost. And then we end up with a product that's not good enough. Customers are not happy, they don't come back, they don't recommend. As a matter of fact, they complain and leave bad reviews. Gosh, you know, where's the sweet spot? So we need to look for the sweet spot. The sweet spot will be along the lines of value balance and also consistency. Delivery. Okay, this is really stretching it. And the longer I go, the worse my handwriting gets, by the way, just so you know. All right, next point is low cost. Yes, I'm not reinventing the wheel. Yes, I am talking about low cost of delivery, or cost-effective delivery. And the fact is, we don't always look at the possibilities for low cost. We quite often, many of us don't know a thing or two that allows us to work smarter, not harder. And at the same time, a big thing is productivity, personal productivity, getting more done with less time, essentially. That's what it comes down to. And at the same time, considering options like outsourcing. Really, this is something that is so critical in today's world. We can't avoid that anymore. We can't, bury our head in the sand. I read somewhere that the ostriches don't bury their head in the sand, but hey, I don't know. Someone else is going to tell me whether it's true or not. But anyway, so the metaphor goes, don't bury your head in the sand. Use outsourcing before it eats you alive, unfortunately. So one way or the other, we need to make sure that we take advantage of this. And especially in developed countries, compared to developing countries, the labor cost in a developing country could be as low as 10%. And I found this is across the board, 10% of what it costs us to get very similar results here is what it costs us to get results, say, in the Philippines or Southeast Asia or other countries like that. There are things that we are going to be hard pressed to outsource, but there are others that are very, very easy to outsource and should be outsourced, really, if you want to survive in business. The third point is scalability. I can't write sideways. I figured out what my problem is. There you go. Now I know. So scalability. Did you know that startups that scale properly grow 20 times faster than startups that don't? Piece of information. And 93% of startups that do not scale properly never go beyond the $100,000 per month ceiling. They get stuck. So yeah, I mean, if you want to grow fast, and you want to grow, eventually continue to grow, scalability, making the business scalable, is so critical. And at the same time, if you're just thinking, hey, I'm not shooting for the stars here, I'm shooting for a nice little cozy spot to call my own, and I'm just doing this for myself, and I'm just, freedom that business brings and so forth, that's great too. But a business that's not scalable means that it completely and totally depends on you. And that's a job, that's not a business. Sorry to break the news. And it's fine if that's what you want, if that's what you're happy to do, perfectly fine. Just make sure, my little piece of advice, make sure you're making enough money to save up enough so that you can invest or keep money aside, or in properties or investments or whatever else you might have around, so that you don't end up getting stuck at the time when you want to stop working or you want to take holidays. And look, I mean, that whole situation can happen whether you're just a one-man band or a one-lady band, or a small to medium business with 50 or 100 staff. You can have a business that's got 50 staff that still can't operate without the person at the top of the food chain. So, and that's not a good business. That's a nightmare. I know too well. Okay, so scalability, the things to consider for scalability would be automation, and it would also be the time release. Sorry, can't spell release. Yep, I think I'm getting close to spelling release right now. All right, it's close enough. So time release means, how can you release your own time and hand it over with tasks that you can hand over to others? Delegation, growing. And automation doesn't really have to mean automating it by using software and other automation tools that are robots or computers or whatever. Automation can be processes that you delegate to staff or assistants or VAs or whatever. That's called automation too. Third point, financial viability. So of course the obvious one, And the one that most of us, okay, I didn't spell it right, profitability. How's that? Gosh, it's awful. Just don't complain about that. It's going to hurt my feelings if I know that my handwriting has just affected your experience. So profitability, and most of us have done some kind of a calculation, you know, filled out a spreadsheet or form or picked up a calculator and, you know, put some numbers together and, oh yeah, if I charge this, I'm going to make that. It's always, though, important to look further ahead than that, you know, at a time when, if you're growing and you start delegating or giving other people work, or getting the work that you're doing to other people, do your margins account for that? Are you essentially making margin for the company or just for yourself? This is not a job. This is not an hourly rate for you only. If you put someone else in your place that was earning what they should be earning in their place, where, you know, where they are, with their level of skills, or with your level of skills, with the quality output that you need, will that make enough money for the company? And secondly, the overheads. You know, might be operating from home, but if this grows and scales, there's going to have to be room there for the other expenses. So the 2 points that come under profitability: margins and overheads. And so secondly, let's say that profitability looks good, you've been operating for a little bit, you go to your accountant, they do the tax returns or do their, you know, financial statements, and they go, whoa, look at you, you're doing well, you're doing great, you know, a few digits of profits right there, it looks good, well done, good on you. Yes, that's great. Why can't I pay my bills then? Tell me that, Mr. Accountant. And the problem is quite often to do with cash flow. So cash flow is a point that so many startups don't think about. I mean, they probably know a thing or two about it, but they don't spend enough time, you know, studying it and planning it out. And it's such a simple thing if you can use a calculator and a spreadsheet, even on a basic level. So if you develop that skill, there's so many decisions that you can avoid making the wrong decisions by doing this well. And the biggest aspect of cash flow, or the problems that come up with cash flow, is called a cash flow gap. Cash flow gap is the difference between when you have to outlay the money and when you start making the profit, when you are paid for the work that you've done or for the product that you're delivering and so forth. And then, of course, there are funding options. Funding options, I'm not just talking about investors, I'm not just talking about lending, I'm not just talking about, you know, any other grants or whatever. It's really a combination of all of those and which one you pick at what time. Sometimes picking the wrong one at the wrong time can just destroy a few things. So ideally be careful with that. And yeah, I mean, let's face it, funding options really are all about cash flow, because eventually, the plan is to make that cash back and then pay back those funding options if necessary. So the last point, which I think far too many startups do not consider or do not know enough about or what to do about it, is fast launch ROI. Now, you know, there are a number of models that are becoming more and more popular these days. You know, freemium model, I'm going to offer it all for free. I'm going to have, you know, thousands of subscribers come on board, use the free model or use the free service, and then some X percentage of them will buy, and then X percentage of them will upgrade, and then X percentage of them. Okay. We see way too many of those sort of startups or businesses around us at the moment offering that sort of model. But gosh, is that the hardest possible way to go about cash flow or what? Especially if you're not funded, especially if you're, you know, haven't got a few million thrown at you by some great investor who knows your worth. For the rest of us that have to do it the hard way and prove ourselves, this is not an easy feat. It really is not. So sometimes we have to come up with a strategy or two to get past that point between where we would like to be. Maybe this is the opposite way around, between where you would like to be and where you're at today. And, you know, the bridge in between is really just the cash flow. So strategies such as clusters, thinking in clusters, and also STR, which is my fancy abbreviation of short, wait, I can't spell short, short-term ROI. Okay, so there's ways that we can approach a model sometimes that helps us just bridge that gap, get to point B, slightly a different route. Okay, colors, that's what you get when you play with colors. Don't do that. All right, so now that we've covered it, gosh, what's that, red, black? Where's the blue? Okay. Anyway, so if you want to know more about this, if you have an interest in getting more details about what I've just explained, please, you know, write in the comments the word PFF. That's not BFF, it's PFF, profits forever, finally. And I'll send you all the details. Let's have a chat soon.